And, an entrepreneur knows how to support an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, it's hard to understand what an entrepreneur seems to think. I mean, you get this, right?
Yeah.
You're the definition of entrepreneur. I don't know if you felt the same thing when you started. I want to be a business owner and I want to invest in businesses. I want to be a part of businesses. I want to advise businesses. Mm-hmm. It's hard for someone that's not in it to understand what you're going through, and you kind of have to phase that out a little bit and to say, how much am I going to go into this? How much are they interested in this? And really invest in the people that want to invest in your wellness and your well-being. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Did you find the same thing in your time?
Yeah. And I'm finding as I'm talking to people, learning about their story, learning about their journey, it's a common thing that happens. And I heard it more from women. So I wanted to ask you, because you're a guy, and I'm like, is it the same for you? Because I know like guy friends or have different types of dynamics than women friends, So I'm like, is this like a common thread? Like with everybody, it's like a universal theme. Like when you switch from, I guess one type of way of living into like the entrepreneurship world. So I am finding it's kind of universal so far with just
it really is. Like, I think everyone has their struggles more uniquely. I'm not saying mine was more difficult. I don't think that would be the case, but I certainly, there are some similarities into like who can support you and what type of people you want to surround yourself with and the challenges you might kind of go through. Maybe everyone's going to be unique. It's interesting. I view that in business, there's no such thing as competition, right?
Yeah.
And why I say that, we can put, I don't know, what's a good example? You can put 1,000 marketing companies, let's say, right next to each other. Yeah. Nobody does it the same, right? No. Different price point, technology, personality match, like location-based services, like nobody, there's no such thing as competition, right? There may be some like similar clients you're going after, but that's why the vendor procurement is so hard, is that there's just an oversaturation out there of businesses, and it's hard for a company to dedicate the time and the know-how to figure out how to go through this, right? It's the same in any type of relationship as well. You have to find the right people that value this relationship, see the value in you see the value in them, right? So it's interesting. There are some commonalities that everyone goes through, but everyone's journeys, and I'm sure you know this better than most because this is what you're asking people, are very unique for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Carisse, and this place is a space where we talk about seemingly random topics, but in all actuality, they're connected together. And today we have a very cool guest. His name is Gregory Klein-Hertzel. He's the visionary founder and CEO of ConnectivTech, a Boston-based outsourced procurement department that specializes in vendor selections and procurement services. Under his leadership, ConnectivTech has grown into a trusted network of over 400 vetted vendors covering cybersecurity, software development, clean energy, telecom, and more, delivering tailored vendor matches and optimized IT solutions to business of all sizes. Gregory's philosophy is simple. Technology's true value lies in the people behind it. He prioritizes aligning business with partners based not just on capabilities and price, but on shared values and cultures. Gregory.
Welcome. Jessica, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. It's funny, we met pretty randomly. There was someone that reached out to me on LinkedIn. He had like a networking, his name Brad. Shout out to Brad. He had a networking group, and then just was like, oh, I know someone else in tech. Here you go. And here we are.
It's funny. I'm a huge networker. And so Brad is a great example of a big networker and building his referral-based business. And it's funny. I kind of founded my business based off of networking, how to introduce just great people to great people, right? And kind of developed a whole business model of how to just connect better people and how to monetize that and how to ethically do what's right by everyone and still make a lot of money, so it's interesting how networking has been such a big part of my life. So I'm so grateful. Just been such a great experience meeting you, Jessica, along the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so interesting because I never really networked like that ever in my life until about a little over a year ago.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
People underestimate the value of networking and they think it's just like posting something on LinkedIn, and it's really just building relationships. There's a business side to it. It's very clear, but people don't really talk about all the personal things that come out of networking. Some of my closest friends now are just some like-minded people that have started their business, and we've kind of geeked out together, and we're local together. We've built enough relationships, and we go golfing, and they know my family, So it's amazing what personal stuff has come out of this. And just being, just knowing great people. It's just, in anything you do, there's just more bad than there is good out there. People, places, things, you're not going to be the right fit for everyone, and not everyone's going to be the right fit for you, and you got to find your people. I'm a big believer in that. You're defined by the people you're surrounded by,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really true. And it's something that I didn't quite realize until I started putting myself out there and networking and just changing the different types of people that I would just have conversations with. And then even this podcast was very expansive, and just it really when you talk to so many different people, it allows that element of surprise to start developing in your life as well, where you just start having like new experiences, new perspectives, different way of looking at things. And then a lot of validations about like different theories and, just the way how you looked at the world and you thought it was only you. But to your point, finding your people, like that's something that, I'm really, really understanding and appreciating.
I'm also a big, I love kind of learning every week, trying to find something else to learn. But I'm not also one of those people that's going to bury my head in a book. I love finding like the leading experts and picking their brain and talking to them about what they've learned and the real experience. And that's really just like how I've become an expert at so many different things, just because I've surrounded myself by much smarter people. And those are the people ultimately I get to introduce to my clients and, my partners and whatnot. So just like yourself, Jessica, honestly, what you do for businesses and this podcast is so valuable. And we can learn so much from each other. And so I think the moment we're done learning is the moment we're just dying, so there's always something to learn.
Yeah. I have that same philosophy. It's actually quite interesting. So like a little backstory about myself and a little bit about my journey. This year I realized that like I had a PTSD diagnosis. This year I realized it was actually real. So like with my memories coming back, it's like, oh wait, this is why I'm different, because I was always interested in learning something new, or like just learning about different topics that my peers necessarily weren't concerned about. So like I grew up in Baltimore, and in Baltimore, it's like, you just hang out, you don't really care about school, it's Baltimore. But like for me, I'm like, I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it like made a light bulb go off in my head. And then after that, and I was like 13. After that, I was just like hungry. So I was like always reading and learning. And then I was always on the computer, like looking up random things. So it's like I had that lifelong learner light bulb kick off so young. And now it's just like a regular day-to-day thing for me. So like for you, tell me about like, when you became hungry to like learn more about the world around you and really prioritize learning and expanding yourself.
Yeah, it's a good question. So it kind of links to how I kind of started my career. I was, right out of college, I went to New York City and tried to live in the Big Apple and realized that was not for me. I love visiting, but I'm not a Big Apple kind of live there type of guy. Ended up working in healthcare administration for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And eventually like started to take that job. And because I was like, maybe I'll go back to school, become a teacher. I graduated my degrees in mathematics. And so I was like, maybe I'll become a math teacher. I'm just trying to find my way. Right.
Yeah.
But I ended up loving what I did in healthcare. And they ended up moving me all around the country to actually fix the bad locations that were failing, restaff them, grow them, put the marketing, put the cybersecurity, run sales and operations teams. And it was such a highly regulated industry. And and this is my third business I've owned. And I still don't think I've ever worked as hard as I did in that industry. That's where I learned my work ethic, right? And because I was dealing with people's lives, we did a lot of home care. It was 24/7. And if we didn't do a good job, lives were affected. And so I really learned how hard I can push myself at that point. And, I had some good mentors along the way. But after 10 years, I left because I ended up calling my boss out and committing Medicaid fraud. And he said to me, Greg, everybody's doing this. Nobody's going to check. We're not going to change. And I said, well, I'm out of here. I quit. Ended up causing a big commotion and certainly was terrified leaving something I was very good at. I got very comfortable at, and I was a leader at, and had to start over again. And it almost got very burned out by that industry. Just working that much and that hard. I'm a big believer that ethically we could do what's right by everyone and still make a lot of money, right? Yeah. I'm a big believer that, like I said before, that we're defined by the people we're surrounded by. And right up until that point, I thought it was, well, who got paid more? Who dressed awesome? Who said something funny, right? I just didn't know how to surround myself with the right people. And I think that a lot of people have this philosophy, and it really wasn't until I started to network that I started to actually figure out, oh, this is a much better way of figuring out who to surround me and my business and my life around, and so one thing led to another. I bought a franchise and then bought another franchise. And this was born what I'm doing now within the franchise, had a successful exit of that franchises, and kind of figured out what I want to do grow up based on those philosophies, and, trying to grow an enterprise out of this one concept, and then applied a lot of other concepts around it, but learned from a lot of people around me. What's good, what's bad, what didn't work, what worked, and what is bad, what is good, right? And in all these areas, right? I might have been implementing cybersecurity for my company, but now I help companies find providers that do that, right? And so it's a different perspective, and trying to figure out how to vet people and not rely on Google reviews and RFPs and quotes and reference checks, all these unreliable methods. So I went through the struggle myself, opening my businesses, and I see other people do it, and found, when we were making referrals and trying to get quotes, I was like, people in businesses are just failing at this. We found the success rate somewhere between 30 and 50%. Right, of them picking a long-term partner that is going to be successful with them, grow with them up until a point, because everybody, if you're growing enough, you certainly need to have that transition for sure. Right. Mm-hmm. And, we found a method that, now it's with this kind of outsourced procurement model, it's over a 90% success rate for long-term partnerships. And so, that's kind of how I ended up here in this journey. It's wild.
Yeah. Oh, I loved everything you said. And one thing that really stuck to me just now was your statement about you didn't know how to surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, for sure. It's wild, right? Everyone does soul searching, and I feel like everybody goes through this like two or three redefining phases. You get out of college and say, this is what I want to do. And sometimes, kind of rarely, people stick with it, right? And then you're like, you know what? Kind of figured this out a little more. I'm going to redefine, kind of start again type of thing. And, some people are still trying to find their way. But some people have found it, and it's really just by finding what you love, who values you. Even if you're just working in a W-2 employee, you got to go where you're valued, and around the people that value it. It all comes back to the people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The soul searching and finding your way. So when you were, I guess, right at the phase where you're like, okay, I think I'm good. Like this is Gregory. This is who I am. Did you also have like a lot of relationship transitions?
Yeah, I had a lot of people that didn't know how to support me, or said, don't be a business owner. Like, this is risky, don't do it. Right. There were a couple people in my life that were very supportive and helped me along the way, but it's like if your best friend, if they had a loved one that died, right? Everyone's experienced death in their life, right? And then have you noticed that people around you, very few of them are actually like good in those situations. They know what to say, or they're not awkward, and the most people are like kind of give a hug thinking about you and try to run away. Very few are going to sit next to you and say, talk to me, or don't talk to me, or let's change it. Let's change the topic, or tell me what you need, and are comfortable in those scenarios. It was kind of similar to kind of the people that were supporting me and not supporting me. They didn't, an entrepreneur knows how to support an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, it's hard to understand to what an entrepreneur seems to think. I mean, you get this, right?
Yeah.
You're the definition of entrepreneur. I don't know if you felt the same thing when you started to become, I want to be a business owner, and I want to invest in businesses. I want to be a part of businesses. I want to advise businesses. Mm-hmm. It's hard for someone that's not in it to understand what you're going through. And you kind of have to phase that out a little bit and to say, how much am I going to go into this? How much are they interested in this? And really invest in the people that want to invest in your wellness and your well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Did you find the same thing in your time?
Yeah. And I'm finding as I'm talking to people, learning about their story, learning about their journey, it's a common thing that happens. And I heard it more from women. So I wanted to ask you, because you're a guy, and I'm like, is it the same for you? Because I know like guy friends or have different types of dynamics than women friends, So I'm like, is this like a common thread? Like with everybody's like a universal theme? Like when you switch from, I guess one type of way of living into like the entrepreneurship world. So I am finding it's kind of universal so far with just
it really is. Like, I think everyone has their struggles more uniquely. I'm not saying mine was more difficult. I don't think that would be the case, but I certainly, there are some similarities into like who can support you and what type of people you want to surround yourself with and the challenges you might kind of go through. Maybe everyone's going to be unique. It's interesting. I view that in business, there's no such thing as competition, right?
Yeah.
And why I say that, we can put, I don't know, what's a good example? You can put 1,000 marketing companies, let's say, right next to each other. Nobody does it the same, right? No different price point, technology, personality match, like location-based services, like nobody. There's no such thing as competition, right? There may be some like similar clients you're going after, but that's why vendor procurement is so hard, is that there's just an oversaturation out there of businesses, And it's hard for a company to dedicate the time, the know-how to figure out how to go through this, right? It's the same in any type of relationship as well. You have to find the right people that value this relationship, see the value in you, you see the value in them, right? So it's interesting. There are some commonalities that everyone goes through, but everyone's journeys, I'm sure you know this better than most because this is what you're asking people, are very unique, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And then I loved how you were able to connect like the relationship between like the relationships dynamics between just your own personal journey and then also like on a more macro scale with like helping businesses, right? With what you do with your outsourced procurement and just finding the right, I don't want to say matches because I feel like that's like a little bit oversimplification, but it's like the highest overlap of alignment, between two people interacting and really making sure there's growth and blossoming and lots of great, things coming out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting, that there's such a, when businesses look at like migrating software, right? Take a CRM or an ERP, right? They're like, well, what's my competitor using? Or they got the shiny object syndrome. What's Salesforce like? I heard of Salesforce, right? That must be good for my business. But the reality is you can put 1,000 businesses that are using Salesforce and every single one, if they're using it correctly, it's going to be almost like a unique piece of software because they have unique operations, people like admins, like everyone's got a unique process internally to do this. Right. And same thing with like individuals, there are just some people very focused. It's hard for me to look at a business and just not see the whole thing. Right. Because everything affects each other. I mean, I don't have to tell you this, but like everything operates around like operations, right? They're like, you know this better than like anybody, right? But like technology, like HR, right? Marketing, right? There's operations to it that you got to follow in order to be successful, right? And so, everything's got a unique set of requirements. People have a unique set of requirements. And at the end of the day, all my business is a reflection of me, right? I don't sell widgets and I don't sell stuffed animals, right? I have to be able to sell my journey and who I am and my process, right? And so there's so many ways to look at we do at an advisory company, a CTO organization, a CMO organization, right? It just depends on kind of what we're talking about, a sales organization. But you have to find the value in what people are looking for. And hopefully you see the value in them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really true. Like the shiny object syndrome. And with my company and how we approach things, I don't even start with what's out there as far as tool sets.
Good.
I start with, hey, tell me what you're doing today.
Yeah.
And it's like the same philosophy I have just within myself. Like if I'm going to do something, I got to look within first before looking at what everybody else is doing. Right. So it's the same philosophy for your organization. It's for you and for your processes. What are you guys doing today? Let's look inside. Let's document. Let's write it out. Right. So when you're exploring yourself as a person, you may journal. You journal things out, you write it out. Okay, let's take your processes. Let's write it out. Let's visualize it. Let's see what's going on. Okay, now let's pull out the details from your processes and what are all the different things that are important in your processes that's a make or break, right? Okay, now we absolutely need to match that with the proper technology.
It's, I kind of call this the paper airplane syndrome, right? It's like everybody, there's a million ways to fold a piece of paper to make some origami airplane. Even if it was a similar way, there are still little wrinkles that, people are going to iron out themselves, or folds that don't fold exactly the same angle as anyone else would do it. Every airplane's a little bit different, right? Even though it looks like it folds the same, everyone's a little unique, right? In order to get it to fly, you got to find your creases, find your folds, find your right angles in order to get it to fly, right? And so you're absolutely right. It's the reverse pyramid method, kind of starting up top and saying, how do we get there? And then reverse engineering that, for sure. I love that.
There's a question that just popped into my mind related to your journey of just, growth, becoming a business owner, growing your business, changing businesses. Did you have any particular person or any type of maybe book or type of content that basically helped you shift from one stage to another?
Interesting. I can't say there was just one thing that was interesting. It's a lot of things came together, a lot of people, a lot of books that inspired me. My latest one, I can tell you that right now, is, and I'm looking at it at the side of me, is What Would the Rockefellers Do? It's all about finance and whatnot, and how to manage personal money and things like that. And they have a very unique way of creating long-term family wealth that's really not talked about a lot, right? And so, and I'm exploring a couple unique avenues like this, but at the same time, that all started with the people around me. One of my awesome partners that I've actually referred a lot of clients to owns a financial advisory firm. His family comes from a long CPA method. Him and I were spent an hour geeking out to this. And he's just a great guy, great advisor, great networking partner. And he kind of put me down the road of this. And again, it's just talking to the experts of what this is. And so it's interesting. I'm always hesitant. I love recommending books. I'm always hesitant to recommend books, right? Just because you don't know what's going to speak to their journey right now. In the beginning, it was a lot of inspirational videos for me, actually. There was a great speech. This guy in the military, general in the military, gave it a college speech, just like a motivational speech. And he came back to making his bed, and he associated all the military exercises they do in training, and then how it relates to life, right? And it was like, for years I spent watching and sending that video out to people, and to try to kind of inspire my employees, inspire me, right, of how to keep going and how to get through myself and everyone around me, right, and how to still succeed. And so there's a million things like that. And so that's my latest book, but I've read books like Traction and I think who has my cheese, or or I forget the book's name. I have like a stack of them here to my right of all these inspirational books, and I have cybersecurity books and marketing books, right? And so it's just something that you have to kind of figure out, where are you in life? And I think you need a lot of them in order to kind of address a lot of things going on with your life, your journey, your where are you in your journey, right? I hope later on in life, I still have different books that I'm going to be picking out and learning from people, right? So it's been a great one in business. The big one right now is EOS, and so the Traction is the book everybody's loves, and I've read that one. I think that's a great business model for sure for small business owners, even medium or even large. But it's a good model for companies and whatnot. So it just depends on where you're at. It's interesting. There is a tech method for decision making that that I love, and I have to try to find the book. I'm going to try to find it before the end of this call, but it's all about kind of doing what you just said, analyzing the data and finding the best path forward, once you are making database decisions. And that is maybe one of my favorite books. I'll have to try to find it before we end this call, but I absolutely love that book, and I would highly recommend that to everybody. So what about you? What are some of your books?
Yeah. So this is a more of like a way of looking at life, so you don't get caught up in things. Someone had recommended to me it's called Transurfing. Yeah. So
Haven't heard of this. I'll have to look this up. What's that about?
Yeah, I've been listening to it, but basically, in life and just in society, there's just a bunch of systems that are just taking place, right? Just systems. And the way this book kind of calls it is called like a pendulum of energy, right? Because you have a lot of people doing a lot of things if it's the same thing, right? You can react to it, not react to it, be, really enthusiastic about it, place a lot of importance on it, but you kind of get pulled into it. So this book is basically talking about like how to kind of stay neutral in different situations so that like your own emotional energy doesn't get consumed by it. So, like as an entrepreneur, you're dealing with so much stuff, right? And things are like trying to grab your attention, or maybe something goes wrong, it didn't go according to plan. And you have all this emotional reaction to it, right? Like initially, sometimes it can keep you emotional for a long period of time, or it could be shorter, but it's just kind of depending on how you kind of shift your perspective, maybe a nuanced type of way, so you don't get so, emotional about the situation that you still have to deal with anyways.
That's so good. To make decisions without emotion is sometimes very hard, for sure. And so I think that's a great thing to keep in mind for doing that. It's great advice. It's interesting. I see a lot of startup companies far too focused on logistics, and how do I set up my business tax number, my telephone number? I need a website, and they haven't even brought any business in yet. I'm like, forget all about that. You're going to figure that out. I'll help you with that. That's easy. You need to go find clients and go service them and just start practicing your pitch and messing up, and go for it. And you need to do sales, right? The sales is the number one priority. Don't waste your time by building this website or what your pitch is, because that's going to change in 6 months. It's going to change in another 6 months, and then it's going to change in another 6 months, right? I was like, you need to go practice this thing in live. Even after 7 years of ConnectivTech, I'm still, perfecting how we come across and what we say, and how we do things. And it just gets better and better and better. I was one of my mentors, I was going through this kind of, like, I was trying to think of like another way and what else I can do. I was stuck on an issue, right? One of my mentors said, well, go someplace that you normally don't go to in order to think about this. And I was like, it's interesting, because I was at my desk in a work environment, right? So I remember I was driving to Vermont and just enjoying the mountains. It was a beautiful day, had my dog, and it was like lightning. It came to me and be like, this is what I'm going to do. And that was like, ended up being the foundation of like how we built everything off of in ConnectivTech, right? And there was a couple lightnings like that struck in unusual environments that I was like, this is I want to build, and that how I'm going to do it. And one thing led to another, and it's been really nice success. So it's always good to have all sorts of different people to kind of be a sounding board, right? No one person, I don't think, is going to be the perfect sounding board for everything, because no one knows you better than you. You're going to be your own best advice, but you need to get a lot of perspectives in order for you to come up with the right decision. I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It kind of goes hand in hand with knowing how to surround yourself with the right people, so that you can have the right different perspectives. You get it? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Because it's like it just becomes this like expansive growing dynamic where it's like, I don't know, it's like I was pre-med in college. And so like now I think about all like just the feedback mechanisms that your body has. And it's like I look at it the same way as you're networking and you're surrounding yourself with the right the people who have the same shared values, same type of goals, type of direction. It becomes like a self grow like a feedback mechanism for growth when you surround yourself with the right people. Well, I guess it could be both
Yes.
ways.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And then when your mind is still developing, your early 20s, right? Your teens, it's so important that you have the right people. I'd say I'm a piece of everybody of my closest people in my life. I'm a piece of all those people, right? And so it's I'm engaged, and so planning my wedding, I'm like, well, I want all of them to be in my wedding. They're a piece of who I am. So it's just so hard to figure out, who I'm going to involve in what situations, But for sure, that all comes back to who you're surrounded by, right? All the time for anything you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I had a question. Um, so like when you were on your soul searching journey and you felt like your identity shifting, what were some, I guess, practices that you did to help like solidify yourself on the inside?
Hmm. That's a good question. The most successful I have seen is when I open myself up to trying new things, right? Um, I'd say the most successful entrepreneurs I know have seen a lot of failure. But they've experienced things, right? They saw something, they learned a lot about it. They now learned what doesn't work, right? In science, that's such a victory, right? Hey, now I know one thing that doesn't work. Now I got to try testing another way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think failure is such it's looked upon so wrong. It should be a celebration when you when you fail at something, right? Not something bad that has happened. It's just you figured out, you've tried it. Good job for trying it. Now you figured out what not to do, and that makes you more powerful every single time you try something.
Yeah.
And so going from healthcare to tech to marketing to procurement to franchises, those are very different things that I had to do, and I really had to explore. I had to take all my experience, which was good experience, but you know I realized there's so much more to learn, right? And just because I was successful one place means two things. It means A, I can do it again. I can be successful again. All right. But I'm not going to be successful everywhere. Right. It's just like finding the right people that value you. You got to find the right things that you're going to be great at. I don't think one person could be great at everything. And if you think you are, you're probably great at nothing. And I have some clients that are in their own way and can't grow their business. And it's because of that mentality. Well, I'm the best at everything. How do I find people to replace this, replace me? And I was like, that's probably your first mistake.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Trying something new. That's really great. That actually, I found I really, really, really expanded trying something new. I think even this podcast, like the first with failing and yeah, the first couple of episodes I recorded, they were trash. They were horrible.
I bet. But you got your rhythm. You figured this out, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Same thing with like, I'm sure all your clients, like, I'm sure your first couple clients that you ever started, you're like, oh, I probably could have done that better. But then you started doing more and more. You're like, oh, I got this down now. This is good.
Yeah.
I'm good at this now. Right.
Yeah. 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 It's so funny. I feel like I'm like that now with negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now I'm like, wait, I need to learn more about negotiations and like a little bit more about human psychology with
Yep.
negotiations.
I
Yeah.
think that is one of the smartest things you could have said, because if you can't sell, if you can't find good relationships, If you're not organized, like you're going to have a very difficult time growing business. You can know all the ins and outs and websites and EIN numbers, but if you can't bring in clients, you got nothing. So I guarantee if you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs, they were just relationship people, like just good at talking to people. People misconstrue sales. Like they have to pick up a call and cold call. And that's not necessarily the case. It's about when you meet people, it's just about building relationship, finding a connection, right? And you're not even selling anything. You're just selling yourself, It's like that's first and foremost, I think the entrepreneurs need to be good at is selling themselves, building those relationships, right? And then everything else will come once you start getting clients, I think.
Yeah, no, like I definitely was. I think because for me, I was recovering from perfectionism. So when I was first getting started, I'm like, no, I need this perfect. I need this. I need all of my federal government certificate. I mean, I have them now, which is great. I mean, I'm not using them. Anyways, but then for me, like I started, like I was like with my business, I was doing like, maybe helping some friends with things like little side projects when I first got started, maybe a couple things on Upwork. But it was just like small. And then the beginning of last year, I'm like, all right, I'm going balls to the wall. I'm going to figure out how to grow a consulting firm without a network. So last year, like I realized like it was easy for me to become an independent consultant. It's easy. But it was the mindset shift of like going into sales. And I had such a repulsion for it because it was ingrained in my mind that sales are like car sales, like, and then trying to learn about it off of social media. Everyone's like, you got to cold call 1,000 people. I'm like, why am I going to cold call people in corporate that like, I know how they are, like it doesn't make sense for me to like do that as like my first way of trying to get business. And then going like the full circle and just like understanding sales is like, wait, no, Jess, what the hell are you doing? Like you always help people. Sales is helping people. Everybody hates their technology projects, Jess. Like you like it. Come on, Jess. Like, I'm talking to myself, So, and with doing like prospecting calls and closing deals and all that stuff, I'm like, wow, what the hell was I thinking all these years? I love this, like.
Right. And it gets emotional to or the further you get in these processes. And if you don't win, it gets very emotional. It's certainly, it's tough. You got to kind of build up that callus and take that next step forward and be okay with rejection sometimes and be okay with failure and say, you know what, what could I have done better? Learn from it. That's what you really got to take away is what can we learn from these things and just experiencing these things,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think what probably helped warm me up to like that, oh, we're going to move with someone else or, those type of things. I think it's because like in my career, I couldn't like, I was always like interviewing, I was always interviewing and just going after like, okay, I can do this. I want to get this experience. Let me go for this. I need to get this experience. Like just because I had this little map in the back of my head of the different types of experiences I wanted to get. So then like, yeah, so I was like an expert at like applying for jobs, interviewing and getting offers and not, so within all of that, you experience no's. And then with the consulting firm, it's kind of like the same thing. I'm putting myself out there, like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. It's so funny. I said the same thing about myself when I was interviewing for jobs, like right out of college. I was good at it. I knew what to say. I knew how to sell myself. Like I got job offers and then like I was not worried about that. I was trying to find something I liked and I had no idea. What do I want to do? I had no idea, right? Tried being a financial advisor, and everyone I'm sure has gotten recruited by one of those places at some point or another, So it's so interesting. But you got to try these things in order to kind of see where you land and what you're good with. It's wild. So it's selling yourself is such a huge factor there.
Mm-hmm. And if you could give someone advice for how to approach selling themselves, what would be like your top 3 things?
Mm. Yeah. Well, I would probably say don't talk about what you're selling. Is when you start talking about anything. I would say the best salespeople I've ever encountered do a wonderful job of asking questions. And they come off as the expert because they're just asking questions and they haven't given one piece of advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a pet peeve of mine of when I come across people that love giving advice without knowing anything that they're giving advice on. Hey, here's what's going on. Great. Let me tell you everything I know. Great. Okay. This is not. Yeah. And I can tell you, it's interesting. So when we do vendor procurement, right? So we're very commonly bringing two, three, four, five vendors to meet the client, walking them through the quoting process. And I can tell you this, the vendors that win, right, do the best discovery process, build the best possible relationship they can within the limit of time that they have with the client, right? And those are the winners. And you know what? Some of them are the more expensive vendors, right? So it's not necessarily, it's about price. It's about how well did you get to know the person in front of you, right? And yes, those particular instances, we were there talking about something very specific, but I'll be honest, like, in sales, it's really just about building that relationship. Like when I get on the phone with you, if I'm meeting you the first time, I'm going to talk about your background. What are those trees? Are you at an aquarium? I want to know what's going on over there. It's so cool. I want to find some kind of connection or commonality. And sometimes that means doing your research ahead of time, right? Who are you talking to? Who are they connected to? What are some topics we can bring up to have a connection, right? And then it becomes more open, right? There's a thing about sometimes vulnerability. It leads to more quality relationships, but you don't want to make yourself too vulnerable, or else it can go the opposite direction. There's a balance with that too,
Yes.
So that's what I would say. I was like, in sales, I was like, just make it about the person you're selling. Ask them questions, get them talking. People love talking about themselves, right? Look what you did to me today. Not fair.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's true, but I do like listening though. I do like listening. I do. I
Hey,
do.
selling is 80% listening,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And then even when it came to like project management and even how I help some of the project managers that are like doing engagements, like I'll just listen into a call and like because I'm just like listening. I've trained myself to listen. I like remember things that, they may be like writing down, blah, 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 and they forget. But it's because I'm just like listening and absorbing. And I'm
Yes.
like, oh yeah, you read about this. And they're like, wait, how?
Makes them feel heard. I love that. Note takers these days have been so huge in AI note takers and getting summaries. It's actually, I use it religiously on my calls. It's been so beneficial, and it's improved my conversations because not only I can prepare my vendors, but I can advise my clients better, and I can focus on the conversation while somebody else is focusing on
Yeah.
the notes. Like it's huge. Um, I'm not a huge multitasker. I'm actually a believer that no one's a multitasker. Actually, even though, because even if you're just fast at stopping one thing at starting another and going back and forth, and even those things you're not doing great, so it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's that multitasking. Is multitasking, does that exist or not, is always the controversial conversation. Is that something
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
present, so it's interesting. So yeah, that's what I would say.
It's so funny. I think with the whole multitasking, I think everybody likes to say that because it used to be on all the job descriptions.
Yeah.
Are you a good multitasker?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interpretive way to say that, right? And in the job interviews, you got to come up with. My sister was once asked the most ridiculous question: why is a drain hole round? That's what she was asked. And she answered, and so she doesn't fall through the cover doesn't fall through the hole if it ever comes out. And it was the interviewer was like, I just wanted to see how you analyze. I was like, interesting. Okay.
I hated those questions.
I was like, yeah. Even interviewing, like, it's so funny. Very few people are actually very good interviewers. Actually, the best ones just have a conversation, and like, don't ask these leading questions. Just like kind of generally, slowly draw it out of them so they can get the real answers, right?
Yeah.
So many interviewers are just like, people need interviewing training when job interviewing. Very few people can just sit down in a room and just do that.
Yeah. Man, you're bringing back memories of all the crap that, like, especially when you're like interviewing for consulting positions, they're like, oh, so we're going to do a brain teaser. I'm like, I don't need no brain teaser. Like,
oh my gosh, I have to coach my clients on what behavioral based interviewing means. Like, don't ask leading questions. Like, talk to me. Hey, tell me about a situation that you did, and what did you like? What did you like? Don't ask, well, we're looking for a really organized person. Tell me about a time you've been organized. That's not a great question. Like, come on.
So, Greg, we're going to close this podcast with this last question. Tell me about a time you were organized.
Are you really asking that? Is that what you're asking? An organized time of my life? Is that what you're asked?
Oh my gosh. So here's a brain teaser.
Okay.
I should start doing that to people. Those horrible brain teaser questions.
Great. Really throw them off.
Oh man, I forgot. Thanks for that. That was a nice one. Oh man. Well, Greg, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, sharing your journey, your story, all the aha moments, and just what it's like to really be an entrepreneur, try to grow your business, how you're helping people today. It was all like really, really wonderful information. And
likewise, thanks for what you're doing too. I think it's so helpful for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And where can people find you?
Sure. LinkedIn's great. Website is ConnectivTech.com. Connective is with no E at the end of it, all one word. And the business number is 857-855-0500.
There's going to be a million people texting you now. Thank you so much, Greg. I'm so happy to have you on.
Thank you, Jessica.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. If you were inspired by what you heard, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.